Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Josef, for the invitation to deliver this presentation. This will be about strategic impacts of MetaNet. And okay, so everyone, I think, in this room already knows very well what is MetaNet. So it is a European network of excellence for language technology involving 60 centers in 35 countries. And it is responsible for a number of undertakings and achievements, one of which, the most notable one perhaps, is this series of language-wide papers, where the 30 languages were covered by more than 200 experts. And these volumes were covering the aspects of dissemination, assessment, and recommendation with respect to the different languages. So what I was invited to do today is to come back to this somehow this initiative and remind people here that this was very well documented already in a paper that was published in the last LREC, and now is receiving a new version, a much more detailed version in the Language Resources Journal. And what I was kind of invited slash asked to do was to provide you a first-hand account of what could be seen as an exemplar activities around this initiative of the white papers. So in fact, my point of departure will be the volume for the Portuguese language, which was co-authored by 10 colleagues, with me included. I'm the first author, and colleagues coming from Portugal and Brazil. So this volume had an impact in many different dimensions. The first one that we have tried to address was the public opinion, and we have provided mass mail distribution of the e-book version of the white paper, and this triggered a huge number of news articles on this white paper in different media, and a number of interviews in the radio. But from all this spin-off activity around the white paper, clearly the most important one were the OP articles, in particular one OP article that I submitted to the major newspaper in Portugal. And a bit to my surprise, it was selected to be printed and presented in the most important op-ed article page in Portugal, where ex-presidents and wannabe presidents just published their article of opinion. And the article has the title, "A Giant with Clay Feet in the Digital Era," which was a kind of a very short way to describe the key message of the opinion article. And this had a really important effect, so much so that after this was in the beginning of 2013, but since then until now, the interest of journalists about this area, language technology and so on, didn't stop and keep raising. And very recently even, there was a very large overview article that the people came to me, the journalists came to me to give some opinions. And this article was how to make the Portuguese language more influent in the world. So with a really nice picture from the market, São Paulo market, the capital of Brazil, with these flags during the soccer championship. So, in fact, I could say that we were able to get a very good impact in public opinion, and this allowed us to be used as a springboard to really reach other sectors of society. Another sector of society was reached by really trying out the same key message that we tried out with the public opinion and with the media. And this key message had two parts. The first part was about the good news. And of course, the second part was about the bad news. The good news was that Portuguese is a global language. In terms of number of speakers, is the 6th language in the world, with 260 million speakers in 4 continents, and is the 3rd European language with the largest number of speakers in the world. And in the digital world, in the internet, is even ranking better because it's the 5th language in the internet with 120 million users. The second good news is the internet penetration. The internet has a rate of 39, almost 40% rate of penetration in the world population. And in what concerns the speakers of Portuguese, it has a clear larger number of around 47% in the 8 Portuguese-speaking countries. So the clear good signal from all this is that the speakers are clearly getting ready for the digital age. Now, this needs to be balanced with the not so good news, and clear for Portuguese, like for almost all the other languages, the research effort is kind of residual. We appear there in this orange tab, and not only we are not faring as we would like to fare in quantitative terms, as this was recorded in this chart that registers the number of references in scientific articles in the 10 top conferences between 2010 and 2012, but also in the qualitative evaluation that we did all together and in a comparative way between languages. Portuguese is also not faring better than this. So the key message then that we were passing to the media and then bringing to the more personal contacts with the other sectors is that, in fact, speakers of Portuguese are prepared for the digital age, but the language is not. And something has to be done about this. Okay, with this message, which is very simple, so message need to be very simple for people really to catch up, we address also the business sector, and here we participated in a major ICT fair in Portugal already in 2011, and we were very lucky because in the starting or the opening ceremony, we had a visit of the Prime Minister of Portugal, who, as you can see, at least got to know the logo of MetaShare and the logo of MetaNet, and of course, a bunch of other information about our activities. Then we organized a workshop where we launched the white paper under the theme of new technologies and the future of languages, participated with many stakeholders from the business sector, and we organized a second booth in the ICT fair one year later, where we were more bold with our message, and our booth displayed clearly in a very visible way language technology, the keyword language technology, and this time we were even more luckier than the previous time, and we got a better higher fish. I mean, it was the President of Portugal himself that visited the booth in the opening ceremony, and he allowed himself to be caught in this picture by opening the white book and trying to know more about language technology for Portuguese. So also here we had a very good impact, I think, in passing a message to the business sector, and then we try to undertake a number of contacts which clearly were more challenging and in the first sight a bit more difficult perhaps, which was to try to address the key decision makers. And in that respect, we were presenting the results of the white paper in many different occasions. One of them was at the Parliament of the National Parliament. We were invited for a hearing where we presented the results of the white paper. And then we asked many different people to have interviews, to have meetings, to pass the results of the white paper. One of these meetings was an European Parliament member who actually was a consultant of the Barroso himself for the areas of science and technology. We talked with directors of departments, with presidents of funding agencies and language institutes, and we talked with a number of secretaries of state and ministers. Okay, at the first thing that was well, notorious is that these guys were hearing for the first time the keyword or the notion of language technology. But then the good thing is that very rapidly and very easily they got engaged with this message that we were passing, okay? And at least it was my sentiment that they became very, very sensitive and very positive towards the message that we were conveying with our initiative and with our white paper. Okay, but then we know that if you want to be a politician, you need to say what your addressee wants to hear. Well, they somehow said what we wanted to hear in these interviews and in these meetings, but in fact, these contacts really materialized in tangible outcomes. And in fact, we becoming having clear impacts in a number of dimensions, including in the language policy. At some point, we were invited at a colloquium called the Colloquium on Portuguese Language in the Internet and the Digital World, which was organized by CPLP. This is the Community of Portuguese Language Countries, an official league of countries speaking Portuguese, which has the International Institute of the Portuguese Language responsible for this colloquium. And the task of this colloquium was to draw a chart of recommendations concerning Portuguese in the digital era. And this chart included a number of recommendations concerning language technology, including this small passage I don't resist to read to you, that the member states should foster research and development programs for language technology and the computational processing of Portuguese. This chart, together with other charts from other colloquia, were the elements needed to feed a conference that was organized later on in 2013, which was the second conference on the Portuguese language in the world system. This was organized by the the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the different countries, and this recommendation entered the final Minister Council resolution. So now the key documents, the master documents concerning the language policy for Portuguese have something about language technology and the importance to support language technology for Portuguese. On another count, in what concerns the impacting of research and innovation policy, there were also very interesting outcomes of our initiatives. We were able that the master plan for the program Portugal 2020, I think every country, every member country of the European Union has a partnership agreement with the Commission for the period between 2014 and 2020. And in this case, this agreement for Portugal included almost 1/3 of a page all around language technology for Portuguese. I cannot resist to just read a small excerpt saying that the application of language technology to the Portuguese language will induce a wide range of impacts with deep economic importance as a factor of enhanced innovation and competitiveness in the global digital market. The innovative exploration of business opportunities on the basis of the computational processing of Portuguese language are important opportunities to foster. So this is the master document that will somehow determine how the structural funds and other support from the European Commission will be spent in the next 7 years. And then this was accommodated in a more detailed plan called the Research and Innovation Strategy for a Smart Specialization. It's a recent document from November last year. And this document draws a number of strategic priorities for our country. And these are 15 priorities. The second priority concerns information and communication technology. And this is rendered in a table with a number of fields that you can see there. And the first field in that table is about the vision for this priority. This vision has 3 sentences. The second sentence reads like this: ICT is a cross-sector strategic asset of the contemporary society for the projection of the Portuguese language in the world. And then, in another field where the topics to be supported are listed, there are as much as 8 topics, and one of these topics are language technology for Portuguese. Okay, but this was not all. Also, very recently, in last December, or December last year, the funding agency just revealed or disclosed the Portuguese roadmap of research infrastructures. And there is the support or the inclusion in the Portuguese roadmap of a strategic research infrastructure for science and technology of the Portuguese language. This is the national node of the European Clarion infrastructure and includes 21 research centers, including some from Brazil, covering a wide range of areas from computation to the humanities, including linguistics, engineering, artificial intelligence, psychology, and some other. So, in fact, along these 2 or 3 years since we published the white paper, the impact and the importance of this publication didn't stop unfolding its virtues. But the importance had not only one direction. I mean, in the sense that it was a kind of a European initiative that was then had a concrete format of a white paper for the Portuguese language. It has a second direction, a reverse direction, where now that this awareness was raised in the country, it is the decision makers that are now ready to come back and are wanting to influence and willing to influence the policy, the European policy with respect multilinguality and language resource and so on. And it was a recent event organized by the National Parliament, by the Language Institute, with the help of the Portuguese Department of DGT, that organized a conference on the theme Languages Translating the Future. And this conference has the goal of drawing a number of recommendations for the authorities, and I was invited for a keynote speech about language technology, and I think a bit in virtue of that, there is a recommendation that reads like this: MT at EC, an application for machine translation proposed by DGT EC should be made available not only to the translators of public administration, but in a generalized way for all civil servants. The Agency for Administrative Modernization should play a driving role for this solution to be available at all public services. So now it's not only what we are doing here is at a more European level that is impacting the Portuguese scene, is now what is going in Portugal that may help having an impact in designing and driving the policies at the European level. And this virtuous circle that is closing went further, and in fact I feel now there is an active national support for an enhanced European policy for multilingual European digital single market. And in fact, it was easy to get an agreement from high-level representatives to come here to these meetings, only that then, due to some rescheduling, they could not come, but they were ready to come. And finally, clearly, the process goes on with the next summit like this one that is going to take place in Lisbon in 2016. So just a way of conclusion, you may ask, okay, where are then the strategic impacts of MetaNet? Well, someone could argue that MetaNet can be seen as a launch pad. Okay, great, I will agree fully with that view. Some others will say MetaNet is providing the horizon towards which we should proceed in our activities. I could only agree with that also. Some others will say, oh, all in all, it's the language technology landscape that is being charted and shaped with our activities. I agree with that too. So thank you so much for your attention, and I'll be glad to answer your questions.